Well, it's a big number. Georgia's getting used to that these days. Missouri's going to come into Athens as about a 17-point underdog. Uh, it opened, I think, a little higher than this. It's settled around 17. That's really a high number. I'm just going to tell you that right now. For a team that's a top, I think Mizzou is number 14. They're coming to Athens. Georgia has gaudy numbers as 14-point or higher favorites. And hey, it's going to be tough for Missouri. We've talked about this a lot, y'all. It's coming into Athens. You're going to have they played one true road game at Kentucky. They played well in that game, Missouri, but Georgia fans, I think sometimes, particularly the pessimistic ones or the vocally pessimistic ones, of which most of y'all are, um, um, it's hard when you're in that mindset or when you're on social media and you kind of can't clear that away from that cloud. You forget how good Georgia can be at any given moment, quarter, whatever, and they can end games quickly. And we saw that we've seen that this season. Where you know Mike Bobo's teams or offense, they just like a lawnmower after a while. They're just cutting the grass. Just nothing can stand in their way, and you got to make it hard on them. And I don't know if Missouri can do that. I don't. This they have gotten better than they were at the beginning of the season. Mizzou, they definitely have. What I don't know is, you know, how much better are they than they were, and that's a good question because at the beginning of the season, Mizzou didn't play unbelievable. Again, they barely beat Middle Tennessee. Obviously, they barely beat Kansas State, but I thought that was a good win. They didn't play well against Memphis necessarily. They scored 30 in two of those three games, but lately they've really picked it up. They scored 34 on South Carolina, 38 on Kentucky, 39 on LSU, 38 on Vanderbilt. So these last four games, offensively, their production is way up. I mean, way up. Now, can they do what they need to do? In the sort of the power spots. Can they get that done? They are really predicated on the pass, which if you had Luther Burden, you would be too. So I don't, I think that's going to be challenging for them. The other thing that really jumps out to me, a lot of penalties, man. I mean, seven penalties a game means you can have a game with four, or you can have a game with 11, and that's a problem. Florida got smoked, and they only had two penalties against Georgia. Now they had two turnovers, and you look at their turnover margin. It's there's nothing jumps out about Missouri. I think the thing to me that jumps out is they're winning games. Now they're winning the games they should win. But they definitely went toe to toe with LSU at home. They went toe to toe and won against Kansas State at home. And they should beat South Carolina this year. I'm not sure they should beat Kentucky on the road, but boy, they did. So that probably was their best overall game. I got to watch a lot of that. They got down 14-0. I thought Missouri was in some trouble, but no, man. I mean, they played well. So I think this is a totally legitimate game. The close of their schedule is pretty tough. They're playing Georgia, and they're playing at Georgia. They host Tennessee and host the Gators before going to Arkansas. I believe on the Friday before on Black Friday, which is the 24th. Yeah, I wonder if that will continue with Disney. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming in this future that was the last Georgia Florida on CBS. It's something that's been there for 27 years and they lose it. And what will it be like in the future? Will Georgia and Tech play on Fridays? Black Friday. I mean, I don't know, but for Arkansas coming into this one, they're going to need to play well. They cannot play like they did during some of these games. If they do that, they're going to have a real problem on their hands. They cannot play like they did against Memphis. They cannot play like they did against Middle Tennessee. So, like for instance, against Memphis, I mean they were down 10-7 in the first, which is not that big of a deal, and it Memphis kind of scored a junk touchdown, but it was, it was within 7 most of the fourth quarter, 10-7. And they won the game by 7. Memphis, scored a bit of a junk touchdown, but nonetheless, when you take a look at that game for Mizzou, winding up, they threw it 341 yards, but Memphis turned it over twice. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't great. Now they really slowed Memphis down, but they ran on them pretty heavy, 225 in that game. So it wasn't the end of the world, but like that, why is that game so close? And then the Middle Tennessee game is really the one that jumps out to me. Just seeing it like this doesn't look right. They they kind of had to. I don't know what happened to get a safety at the end of this thing, but they did. But again, against Middle Tennessee, a lot of us that played smaller level athletics call it Little Middle. Middle Tennessee played them hard. I mean, like that game was tight, and they didn't really run on Middle Tennessee. They had about 100 yards. I mean, it wasn't great. So I think that for me is. They can't come with that kind of stuff. But if Brady Cook plays well for Missouri and Burden does what he does, I mean, you're not going to stop Luther Burden the whole game. Like, he's going to get his. And that's the part that, I think you have to be realistic. Georgia doesn't, as good as Kamari Lassiter is, it's really hard in college football to just be like, oh, no, we're shutting you down. Like that, it's impossible in the NFL. But in college football, even, it's really hard to just do that. So everybody's going to have to do their part on the defensive side of the ball. And they did that against the Gators. Make sure you're checking out our buddies at EcoPoly. I do want to get down here, this Ocean View collection. Y'all, this is awesome. I mean, it is well built. It is made of recycled material, 20 years, made in the heart of Georgia down in Eastman and Dodge County. You get, like, for instance, this is a 7-piece farmhouse dining set. You can have any colors that you want. I mean, now that's a bit of an exaggeration, but like if you want summer blue, or if you want to mix and match Destin White and summer blue, you can't. Like, that is awesome looking right there. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And so take advantage of this. You got 15% off of any order, and you're gonna get free shipping. Our friends at EcoPie make it possible for us to travel to Jacksonville, Knoxville, all across the, Auburn. I'm assuming the SEC championship game. I'm assuming the playoff. We'll see. We can't do it without them. Y'all please help us support them, because they are really supporting us. Let me tell you right now, Jacksonville is not inexpensive at all. But I think with Missouri, you're looking at a 17-point line. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's been a long time since Georgia lost a game like that. It's been almost 5 years. And that was a South Carolina game in 19. So as a 17-point favorite, Georgia, again, they lost to South Carolina the one time, but they just, they're 29-1 in their last 30 games, 17-point or more as a favorite, just straight up. Now, against the line, they're about half and half. For me, I am probably going to take Missouri here, just because 17 is I think that's exactly where it should be. But man, I don't know, man. That's a lot of points to cover. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia covered that line. I need to think about it a little bit more, but they've had some healthy lines this year. When you look at it, Tennessee Martin, that was a 50-point line. 50 points. They didn't cover it. They pushed against Ball State on a 42-point line. Obviously against South Carolina, 26-point line, they didn't cover it. They didn't cover against UAB, a 40-point line. But, they played pretty well in that game, just being honest. Auburn, they were a 14-point favorite on the road. They didn't cover that line. And then everybody's really down on them, because of the line, it seems like to me. I guess really the way they played against Auburn was a lot of it. But then against Kentucky, they're 14.5-point favorites. They throttle them. And then they go to Vanderbilt, 32-point favorite. They don't cover that line. But now, that's what happens when you turn it over twice, and the first drive is a touchdown for the other team, stuff like that. But then they're a 14-ish point favorite over Florida, and they win that game going away. They cover that line easy. By 11, another 9 points. So 17. You're looking at Georgia like covering. You're looking at like 38 to 20ish, something like that. I mean, that sounds like a completely reasonable score, but I don't know. They just had to play an emotional game against Florida. You've got a top 10 team probably with Ole Miss coming in the week later. I don't know. 17's a lot against a ranked team. It's a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.